As my fellow Brooklynite Allen Ginsberg said, the soul should never die ungodly in an armed madhouse. So here it is. This is the new armed madhouse from Baghdad to New Orleans to Brooklyn. Sordid secrets and strange tales of a White House gone wild. Read it. I know where you live, and I know where your kids go to school.
My name is Kevin Powell. I'm a writer, an activist, and proud progressive from Brooklyn, New York. I know someone's from Brooklyn out there, right? That's right. And I just want to say we're here to celebrate the release of Greg Palast's book, Armed Madhouse. Let's give him a round of applause. We certainly want to also acknowledge that this is an event to raise funds for WBAI, one of the most important radio stations in the country. Let's give them a round of applause. In fact, as progressive folks, we should always be supporting local independent media. We also want to talk about the fact that we want to support, and this program is being broadcast by Democracy Now!, Free Speech TV, and WBAI Pacifica Radio.
There's many fronts here. You know, and if you're a teacher, I've got a section, because there's another war. There's not just the war in Iraq. There's not just the war on terror. There's a war we are definitely losing, and that's the class war. Them against us, and that's what it's, those are, Baghdad and Baghdad on the Mississippi are just two fronts of that war, okay? And it begins, and they, you know, the rove bots can't keep you pulling that lever. After all, we had 59 million people. No matter how many votes they shoplifted or didn't count, okay, there were still 59 million people that pulled that lever for George. That election was an intelligence test that I think America flunked. So we got to study. So I'm very concerned about what's happening in the schools. No, you know, for those of you, you know, I have here part of the high stakes exam. Any teachers in here? Yo, right. You know what high stakes exam, to go from the 3rd grade to the 4th grade, you have to take an exam. And here's one of the exams given out in the state of New York, which it's reading comprehension for 8-year-olds. They have to answer these questions, and this is the actual test reproduced in the book, and it says you have to define doubles tennis. Now I looked out over the Lower East Side. I didn't see a lot of people in tennis weights. Now, the kids in Forest Hills and the Hamptons can answer this because, you know, mommy goes off with the Raoul every Thursday for 4 hours and comes back very sweaty. So I know what doubles tennis is, and then I kid you, gotta look at this. And I want you to photocopy this and stick it on every schoolroom door for the parents. See, because there's one question here which asks you to define what is a country club. And by the way, the answer, D, is place where people meet. Which people?
See, I report for BBC television and not on American TV because it's illegal here under Patriot Act 3. And that's the joke, but then it turned out to be kind of true because I went down to New Orleans for Democracy Now! And I and my producer were charged with violating the anti-terror laws. We were filming critical infrastructure, which is all these people living in tin cans and kind of this aluminum Guantanamo that they've set up, right near the Exxon refinery. So it's a place called Cancer Alley. So the giant Exxon refinery. So we wanted to film the soot and shit falling all over these survivors of Katrina. So we were charged with violating the anti-terror laws. What they said was we were filming critical infrastructure. So what's critical infrastructure? They said, well, any major polluting facility owned by a Bush donor. Kind of. But I was not arrested. People think I was arrested. That's not true. They never got me. They couldn't find me. They were looking for me for 2 weeks. And, you know, I'm on television. These are the people looking for Osama, right? So I already said, in fact, I was worried I couldn't get home on the airplane. Right. I'm charged with terrorism, basically. I was really worried when I got on the plane. You know, think about these guys. I have a chapter in our Madhouse called Who's Afraid of Osama Wolf? And, you know, all the civil libertarians are very, very serious about this. They're taking away our civil liberties. Well, of course they're taking away your fucking civil liberties. What did you expect? But that's nothing. I mean, these guys are basically dangerous clowns. Like, You know, all I need is the balloon shoes and the red nose, little horn, honk, and that's Homeland Security. And a friend of mine who speaks Turkish thought, you know, look, America was attacked September 11th. She thought she would help out. So she left a message. So she said she would actually volunteer for the CIA and help them translate from Turkish. So they called up and left a message on her phone. I kid you not, we have the recording. And it said, Ms. Whatever, we understand that you speak terrorist, fluent terrorist, and Turkish. And she said, she said in Turkish that he should go fuck himself. I don't know what that means in English, but.
Hey, we're small media, and
how small? I mean, when you say you're small, like 4 or 5 inches high, or
we're only.
I'm giant media. I'm BBC Television, which is the world's largest network, and I'm all over the place, except in the United States, where my reports bounce off electronic Berlin Wall. By the way, my first review of our Madhouse came from Karl Rove. It was subpoenaed by the Congress, his emails, and he was, I kid you not, he was congratulating himself on the fact that no U.S. media is picking up my investigations in our Madhouse. And he actually attached an excerpt from the book as a PDF. But he kept calling me that British reporter.
Uh-huh.
You know, because I report for BBC. But okay, I'm American. You're un-American, Carl, so let's get our facts straight.
One bit of advice that I agree with from a guy named George W. Bush. Did you not? I don't know if you remember, this is, after all, Mission Accomplished Day, March 17th, 2003, when George Bush strode into the Roosevelt room, looked into the cameras, and announced that Saddam had to leave within 24 hours. Or we're coming in to get him. Or he wasn't coming in, but that's... I thought he was going to, and then he said, I don't know if you remember this, March 17, 2003, he said, I want to talk to the Iraqi people. Remember that? Now, that's weird because I thought Cheney didn't tell them they speak Arabic, but I don't care. But I thought, well, maybe he'd say, our kids are coming in to liberate you, so don't shoot him. But, he is a war hero. He didn't care about it. He did say to the Iraqi people, do not destroy oil wells. I kid you not. Look it up. But he said something I completely agree with. He said, do not fight for a dying regime. It is not worth your life. Thank you. Thank you, Randy. Bobby. WBAI. Pacific Radio Air America. Your weapons of mass instruction.
So that's it. That's what it's about. They have successfully locked out the real information. And you have these fake hairdos and bleached teeth Rove bots who are reading the news.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you thought we had any chance of getting into the mainstream media with a show called Brooklyn versus Bush. You think we got any...
Yeah, you are the mainstream media. They just don't want to admit it. See, the average daily newspaper readership is plummeting, thank God. Television news is completely dying, which means that there's some fucking hope for America. It's true that in the last election, even though they stole it, and I'm going to tell you that they stole it, you still had a 59 million pinhead parade that, voted for Bush because they didn't want boys to kiss boys,
Is there a plan A, plan B per your talk?
Yeah, you got it. It isn't. Look, they had an original plan called Food for Oil. They got very little food. We got very little oil. The oil companies were very happy. Now, how do you keep that going? Because they're about to wiggle. Saddam was going to wiggle out of that one, and he could have exploded the oil market. So you got a few things you can do. You can assassinate Hugo Chavez, who stole another one of the hats. Or you can keep the place on fire. And so, again, $18 a barrel. There's less than 2 million barrels of oil a day being shipped out of Iraq, which can do 6 million because it's on fire. $20 a barrel to $50 a barrel. Mission accomplished. That's what it's about. That's the plan. It's still in effect. It's rolling forward.
How was the 2000 and 2004 election stolen, and what are your predictions on how the 2008 election will be stolen?
Okay. 2000 was stolen because a discovery that Catherine Harris, before the election, knocked off 97,000 voters as felons not allowed to vote. Their crime was voting while black. That couldn't make it in the U.S. press until I gave it to Michael Moore. That's how I do it. I can't get in the U.S. press, so I give it to the fat guy in the chicken suit. Then in 2004, they used something called caging lists, which I uncovered, which targeted black soldiers, of all things. Black students, soldiers, homeless men, challenged their right to vote because they had suspect addresses. I mean, that's true. Baghdad's a suspect address, but you're still allowed to vote from there if you're a soldier, even if you're a black soldier. 2008, I don't have any prediction if they'll steal 2008. They've already stolen 2008. This is what people don't understand. Are they going to steal 2008? No. They've stolen 2008. God damn it! They've taken 1.6 million people off the voter rolls. Hispanics, as we speak today, there's all these marches for Hispanic rights for undocumented workers, that don't have citizenship yet. What about the 7 million Hispanics, unregistered, who do have citizenship? It's not like they don't know how to sign a damn piece of paper to register themselves. They've been doing it. They signed up 2 million people. They knocked off 1 million. So you're filling up a leaky bucket with these registration drives because they're basically flushing them out the bottom by saying these people, you're challenging, saying, oh, we don't have citizenship records for these people. No kidding.
And this is before the debold meddling and whatever they're going to do.
All. You know what? The computer stuff, forget it, man. That's over with. That's very 2004. It's really the MacGuffin. It's the false. It's the fake clue to throw you off track. How many electronic voting machines were in Ohio? Just about none. Keep that in mind. People forget this. Diebold may be based in Ohio, but they didn't have Diebold machines in there. It was stolen other ways, mainly punch card machines that the punches didn't punch through. It was actually the hanging chad thing you had before. No one talked about that. Even the left-wing media. Of course, that requires you to read Nation, but there's not enough coffee in America that will let you get through an issue of Nation. Don't tell Katrina.
And that's the question I have for you tonight. What are we going to do? Where are we going to go? See, it's a question for all of us to answer right now. I don't know. I'm not going to tell you I know everything. I know a few things. That's why in the new edition of the book, I didn't just steal how they have stolen the 2008 election, but a little added chapter called How to Fight Back Your Vote. Take it back. If they steal it, we'll steal it right back. Legally. That's why I got the lawyer here.
Speaking of the voter rolls, what info do you think ChoicePoint has on me, and can I get a copy?
More than you or your mother know about yourself. Because the one thing, what they're doing is the government's contracted out to the guys that fixed the election for them in Florida, contracted out this kind of KGB function to this company, ChoicePoint, which keeps 16 billion records on Americans. And so what's happening is that, and half of it's complete horseshit. So, I had a friend who was, was listed as showing that he blew up, I kid you not, blew up a hot dog stand. A doctor, a pediatrician who dynamited a hot dog stand in Chicago. Obviously dangerous guy. It's like, okay, but there's no missing hot dogs that can account for this. So it's all baloney.
Tell us about the University of Chicago and Richard Pearl and Ahmed Chalabi and
all those guys. Yeah, I went to Chicago with these, neo-Gestapo guys. And, they were the weird ones who couldn't get dates. They all had small, soft hands and talked about the manly art of war. Whoever thought that these losers would be playing with toy tanks in the bottom of the Pentagon and sending in Hispanic voters to take the bullets. Well, there you go. Life is fine.
Do you agree with Thomas Friedman's assertion that the Earth is flat?
Yeah, his head is flat. Friedman is like, I studied under Milton Friedman, where he got all his ideas. Now, Milton Friedman was a smart little spider, about that high. A little dwarf, his feet didn't touch the ground. But, he had those kind of Napoleonic ideas. But Thomas Friedman is one of those people who's like, he calls himself a Democrat and a liberal, and who basically, he's a business class liberal. I mean, this is a guy who who told us about the New World. He found the new India while playing golf in India. Now, I've been to India many times. I've never seen a golf course. I mean, what India did he visit? It's like, maybe he's in, this strange little world where, you play golf with billionaires. Yeah, so sure. And that's why they fear Hugo Chavez, because Chavez is not a business class golf playing in India guy. He is a guy who's taken the oil money and given it to the oiled people, the people who've gotten fucked in a half over time. First guy to ever take. Look, you have all these oil kingdoms, whether it's Venezuela or Kazakhstan, where the money is not going to people, or the United States. We just had $120 billion record profits by the oil companies, more than any. Exxon last quarter earned $10 billion. No company's earned that since, the pharaohs. And none of that money's coming back to us.
A couple of quick questions. One, what has the city of New Orleans said to explain why they shut down the public housing projects? What rights do the former residents of those projects have under housing law in New Orleans? I'm sorry.
Well, what happened to the rights of the people in New Orleans? I actually worked once for the Housing Authority of New Orleans, and I appreciate, by the way, ex-mayor Morial, a real mayor when they had a mayor. Current mayor is, he's not completely bad. He has African-American parents. There's a class war going on down there. When I worked with the Housing Authority of New Orleans, even back when, they were trying to get rid of those people. That's beautiful housing right here in the French Quarter. They ain't gonna let those people back. You know what this administration calls the 80% of the population which cannot return, that are survivors of Katrina? You know what their official designation is? They call them Democrats. Don't kid yourself. That was a red state turning Democratic blue, and Karl Rove's problem got washed away. That ain't gonna come back unless we bring it back. Don't ask. This is like 1927 when those levees broke. Then the Democratic Party was weak. We had the right-wing Democrat in Albany, Franklin Roosevelt, and then he saw an uprising out of Louisiana after those levees broke. And he noted that people were saying, that's enough. They're drowning our kids. We don't have pension for old age. Veterans are unprotected. We are in wars for oil. Enough. And Franklin Roosevelt said, hey, you get elected that way. Called it the New Deal. That's what happens. We'll lead, they'll follow. So I'm going to make it wider than what's happening just to these people that are locked out in New Orleans, because we're all getting locked out. See, we're all on the Mississippi. We're all on the Tigris right now. That's the whole point. This book, Our Madhouse, is about one war, the class war. And it's about time we arm ourselves with the information. That's why I say keep your weapons of mass destruction, Air America, Pacifica, alive today. Make out your checks now.
Chavez told me Venezuela is no longer an oil colony, but New York is. We are living under an oilocracy, and that's why we're there in Iraq, and that's why we are not getting out of Iraq, because we're there not to get the oil. See, that's what people are dumb. They watch too much TV. Even the left, get off it. They didn't go to Iraq to get the oil. Wake up! Hello? Exxon does not send its exploration company, the 101st Airborne, to go into Iraq to get you a bunch of oil so you can fill up your SUV cheaply. They go into Iraq to find the oil and turn off the spigot. See, because the lower the supply of oil, the higher the price. Now, today, as we are recording this, it's May 1st, mission accomplished day, right? When Clinton was president, oil was 20 bucks a barrel, now it's 50 bucks a barrel. That's mission accomplished. Don't kid yourself. $20 a barrel to $50 a barrel. Mission accomplished. Get it? Are you getting it? See, lower the supply, the higher the price. That's what it's about. Keep those fields on fire, baby.
That's
why Osama is that's why they just made Osama vice president of Exxon. Yeah, it's true. Look it up.
How is the Iraq War about testing economic theory?
They had a master plan. They really did, which was to sell off everything in Iraq, which, keep in mind that Iraqis had, after the invasion, all they had was Saddam dinars. They couldn't buy, they couldn't buy a bag of popcorn, let alone, buy back with their own steel plants. So it's all been sold off to the Chinese, to Russians. The banks have all been sold off to those connected with Lehman Brothers. It's basically been, like Grand Theft Auto, except much more explosions, much more sex, and a lot less money.
What do you got there?
And worse music.
3,006,380 votes were not counted in the United States for which we stand. Now, you do the arithmetic. Look at New Mexico, 5,900 votes. Victory for George Bush, 30,000 not counted. 900%. Let's do the arithmetic. 900% X times plus 500% Y, 2,000 Z. If you got through George Bush's No Child Behind Left program, then you would know. Look at the demographics at 88%. 88% of the votes cast and not counted in New Mexico were cast in minority precincts. That's typical of the United States. You tell me who won the presidency. Kerry won. Now get over it. Because, see, they're stealing 2008. Now, I'm often asked, are they going to steal 2008? No. They've already stolen it. I'll explain how. That's in the new edition of our Madhouse, The Theft of 2008, because they've already grabbed it. Now, how do I know this? Well, Karl Rove sent me an email. Yeah. The House Judiciary Committee is missing several thousand emails from Rove's office. He used the RNC and the Bush campaign email server, right? And his minions and the Rove bots. Well, anyway, don't worry, Congressman Conyers. I have 500 of them. I do. Okay, now how did I get them? So why would Karl send me an email with his scheme for 2004 and 2008? Well, I know a lot of you think that Rove is an evil genius. Actually, you're only half right. See, he's not the sharpest knife in the drawer. With those little soft hands, he was typing away, and his guys, and they're typing away their evil little schemes to their buddies at georgewbush.org. Unfortunately, their web domain is georgewbush.com, and .org is owned by John Wooten. Stand up here, John. He's here. And John owns georgewbush.org, and he got 500 of Rove's email, and he sent them to Greg Palast at BBC. Now, wait a minute, guys. This is a personal, confidential email from the Republican National Committee, Mr. Rove. And BBC said, are you going to read his confidential email? And they said, get back to us in 2 days. Yeah. So we went through them. 500. We went through the weirdest 70 of them. Because each of those 70 had attached to it something called a caging list. Caging list. Here's another caging list. Carl, here's another caging list. Oh, another caging list. What's a caging list? So they were Excel spreadsheets with names of voters. This was a pretty suspect address. They're all coming from the same place. They couldn't all live there, could they? Shirley Craig, Naval Air Station, Jacksonville. Prentice Davis, Naval Air Station, Jacksonville. Joey Dupree, Naval Air Station, Jacksonville. Naval Air Station, Jacksonville. Naval Air Station, you get the idea? Okay. Soldiers, sailors, airmen, African American, Hispanic. Now, it's in the new RMAD. Now, you see it yourself. Why? See, what they were doing was they were sending letters. by the hundreds of thousands. First class, this is a multi-million-dollar first class electronic lynching operation. Sent letters to these voters. Do not forward. They're sent back. Return to sender. They had stamped undeliverable. And that was evidence that these voters were, they said, did not live at these addresses, should not be allowed to vote. Their absentee ballot should not be allowed to vote. And so we called them, as we told 60 Minutes, that you have to do. Indeed, we called lots of them. And one of them, Randy Prousa. Okay? Mrs. Prousa, where is Randall? He's not here. Does he live there? No, he doesn't. He doesn't live there, but he votes from that address, huh? Yes, well, where is he? He's been shipped overseas. See, they mailed the letters to the soldiers when they were shipped to Baghdad. The letters came back undelivered, and they used it to challenge the vote. Prousa sent in his absentee ballot. It was challenged. He didn't even know it, and it's thrown away. Go to Baghdad, lose your vote. Mission accomplished, Mr. President. And just, we do have an elections attorney here, and I think that he can verify for me that you are allowed to vote if you're shivering under a Humvee in Fallujah from using your home address, right? Using your home address, if you're a soldier, even if you're an African-American soldier, is that correct? Now, why was this subpoenaed by Mr. Conyers and the review of my book from Mr. Rove? Well, you've all heard about the firings of the 8 U.S. prosecutors. But who did they put in to replace them? See, if you look at an armed madhouse, you'll find a copy of an email with the name of the guy that Carl, he can't do everything with those little soft hands, that he put in charge of the African soldier blackout. Okay. And his name is Tim Griffin. You know where Timmy is today? See, on December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day, they fired 8 prosecutors and they named Tim Griffin U.S. prosecutor for Arkansas. Now, as Bobby will elaborate. See, we asked the Republicans, was this a challenge list when we saw those caging lists? They said, oh, no. No, that's why the whole thing about the donors. It's not a challenge list. You know why? They wouldn't fess up. I mean, after all, if the voters are illegal, maybe they shouldn't vote. Well, the answer is, it's against the law. Voting Rights Act of 1965, it's a breaking rocks on a chain gang felony to target voters where race is a factor. Okay? So in other words, the perpetrator became the prosecutor.
As my fellow Brooklynite, Allen Ginsberg, said, the soul should never die ungodly in an armed madhouse. So here it is. This is the new armed madhouse from Baghdad to New Orleans to Brooklyn. Sordid secrets and strange tales of a White House gone wild. Read it. I know where you live, and I know where your kids go to school.